Hello, everyone. Again, we are gathered together, my gathered friends, to continue the exclusive interview with TTV Podcast. As the past week, with me are two special guests to this very tiny and humble interview TV show or internet show, whatever. Let me introduce Meso
Hello, thrilled to be here.
and LJ.
Hello, Metro Nui! I always wanted to loud shout that.
Amazing. So let's continue with the second part. This is more personal because we are not gonna talk too much about Bionicle. We're gonna talk about TTV Podcast and prepare yourself to finally know the history of one of the best Bionicle podcasts.
Aw,
Yes.
thank you.
You're too kind.
Oh my. Okay, guys, let's ready. So let's discuss the following questions. So, in the past episode, you told me about you during the end of Bionicle, your TTV podcast started. So, can you tell me more about how the podcast started, or how was the early days of the podcast?
Of course. Uh, I'll take the lead on this one since it's all my fault. Uh,
That's correct.
well, mostly. It's mostly my fault. So, long story short, between the years of 2001 to, I would say mid 2010s, bzpower.com was like the most prominent place for Bionicle discussion on the internet. It was like the big community hub. And while we were on that site, there were all kinds of groups and like fads that sprung up. And one of them was the Vaki fad, where people would like cosplay, quote unquote, as like Vaki and go around enforcing the rules of the website and basically acting as moderators. And that fad was actually started by Essinger to publicly like call him out. Essinger, it's your fault that TTV exists. Thank you, thank
Oh,
you. I'm glad to exist.
sorry,
He
buddy.
he
No,
tweeted about that a while ago. He knows,
you did.
but it's really cool because through that I met some of the people who would be instrumental in TTV's early days. And then, through a friend of a friend of a friend, I got invited to a chat room that was run by one of our other members, Vin, who would later go on to do On eBay Today on the Mock Spotlight many years later. And through that chat room, I met LJ. I later met VAR. I met all the people from the early days of TTV. And then one day in that chat where we would all hang out every day, somebody asked, I think it was VAR. I forget exactly who asked LJ. Who asked you?
I think it was you.
Oh, well, I forget who asked me. I think it was VAR, but hey, do you want to join a podcast? And I was, how old was I at this point? I was like 12,
I mean, you're
12 years
perpetually
old.
12. That came from somewhere.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
12 years old at that point. I was like, yeah, I want to join a podcast. And, well, I joined the podcast and it was called IBZP. It was the Independent Bionicle Zone podcast. And it was by members, for members, to contrast with the BZ Power staff that had their own podcast called BZ Powercast that was run by the moderators. So it was like we wanted to do something for the average members to talk about the goings on of the site and BZ Power and all that fun stuff. We did it for a few months. Bionicle ended. VAR kind of got sick of having to host every episode and edit every episode. There were some shakeups with the cast, and the decision was made to end IBZP and reboot it under a new podcast named The Three Virtues, which was going to be run by me, an up and coming guy with a lot of enthusiasm who hadn't been jaded like VAR was at that point. And then over the years, we changed the name from the Three Virtues to the TTV Podcast. And the rest, as they say, is history.
All right. So this is the down of TTV podcast, not down of justice.
Exactly. Yes.
Just as much fighting, though.
There was a
Yeah,
lot of fighting, mostly with LJ.
Okay,
yeah.
hold on.
So we are introduced to the dawn of TTV Podcast. We're about the other Bionicle creators. I remember since the past decade or 2 decades, most specific 2 decades ago, there was a lot of Bionicle creators, but most during the end of Bionicle, some of them are leaving YouTube and only a few survived. So, what about the other creators of or podcasters, animators, creators, 3D designers, and 3D printers or custom creators and mockers? How is your relationship with those guys? Is good, bad, amazing? There are some great people, but some people who is not too friendly. Can you talk about this aspect of the Bionicle community and you and TTV?
In the modern era or back when we started?
Okay, let's start with the prequel, the early days.
LJ, you want to take this one?
Wow,
On
you
both
would.
on both fronts.
Sure. Back in the day, I think we definitely we ran into some issues with a handful of creators, but when it came to the YouTube side, we were pretty friendly with those that we interacted with. We didn't do a whole lot of crossovers, collaborating with people, but whenever we did, we generally got along with people, and a lot of those relationships are still solid today. Namely that with Biosector 1, the most accurate Bionicle Wikipedia. Suddenly Oranges is a good associate of ours. Um, we did run into a couple of issues with some people that we don't talk to now. It's not like we're holding a grudge or anything, but you know, we just don't have any reason to engage with them at this rate. For the longest time, we had a bit of a mixed relationship with BZ Power with a handful of their staff members. But as time has gone on, everyone has grown up and come to a better understanding. Our relationship with BZP is actually pretty good, which we're really happy about. In the modern age, I don't I don't have the best idea of how we are viewed and how we are with other groups and communities, with a handful of exceptions. There is another website which I hesitate to say it's a large website. They don't have a lot of activity in terms of user engagement, but we do not get along with them. They have made very clear that their interest in us is purely what they can gain from their association with us. And as a result, we absolutely refuse to associate with them. Their members, their leadership has been extremely antagonistic to us. One of their leaders a couple of years ago threatened to break my knees. We
Yeah.
absolutely refuse to work with them under basically any circumstances unless we know that they're not going to try and railroad us for any given reason. But that's just that, to my understanding, is more of an exception to the rule. Uh, but aside from that, we aren't really interacting with a whole lot of other creators in the space outside of Suddenly Oranges and Duck Bricks, and we're on really good terms with both, which we're really happy about. They're both fantastic people.
Yeah, the
Oh,
thing to keep in mind about like our history and kind of like where we are now in terms of interacting with people is back during the early days of our group, especially with the YouTube side, I would say we were very much on an island. Not a lot of us do stop motion. The only one who's ever really messed around with it was Vin. And not all of us were like hardcore mockists either. So we didn't really collaborate or interact or even know closely too many of the people from the old guard of YouTube. We were really friendly with a Shadow Gear 6335. He was one we talked to back in the day, but other than him, and like I just said, suddenly oranges. I can't even really think of many people on YouTube we even interacted with. All the
Yeah.
people we were super familiar with came from the forums or BZ Power or BSO1 or that whole sector. And there are a lot of talented people in the community who are still active today. And I hold their work in great renown, especially like you said, the 3D modeling community, the 3D printing community. All of those people immensely talented at what they do, and they're helping to keep Bionicle alive. Um, I imagine we'll talk about the community more, but in terms of our relationship to it, I think that it is a shame that we are not on good terms with certain large community hubs. It's mainly because of the canon contests and people's reactions to those. If you enjoyed our attempts at doing the canon contests, you probably like us. And if you don't or didn't, then you probably hate us. And there is no middle ground.
Doesn't
So
seem to be.
there does
Yeah.
not seem to be, but there are plenty of talented people, and I respect them a lot.
Wow, it's amazing. It's a large community of people. For example, in
Yeah.
Latin America, we don't have that. We don't have it. Only there are a few creators. Mostly they are inactive because they have their jobs. Sometimes they are in the still in the university. And Latin America is more well known in the by the Lego influencers. Yes, the
Hmm.
mainstream Lego influencers, not the people who can introduce you in the world of Lego or in the different Lego universe. And the creative part is more related to the 3D print aspect. So, for example, in some way, I can, I we don't have that complexity of people of work, but I have a surprise for you
Okay.
or Pot. Before the lockdown, I tried to make something interesting about the Bionicle fanbase. Try to join with the other creators and maybe make a movie to say thank you Lego for Bionicle, or
Okay.
maybe create an alternative ending. But yes, about this proposition, I create a prop, but no, it's not the typical Nui stone with of 3D
Okay.
print or soft clay. Let me show into the camera
Oh, wow.
That
with
is
Oh, that's
awesome.
very cool. What is that? What is that made of?
a river stone.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Yes, I have a second one. It's more accurate to the masks of light design.
Those are great.
Fantastic,
Yes, it's infinity
man.
because my moto tool is not enough powerful to carve this stone. This is more harder.
That makes sense. Yeah,
That's
that,
awesome.
that that does make sense, but that's fantastic that you have multiple of those. I want to get a stone of that sort to display, but I'm definitely not skilled enough to make one myself. I was gonna buy some when I know Essinger was selling some a while ago, but I didn't have the money to buy them at the moment. But that's very cool that you made your own. It looks fantastic.
Those are
Yes,
great.
yes, it's amazing. I made some as a batch of smaller ones, and I get to my closer friends in the Bionicle fanbase.
Aw,
That's
it's very
fantastic.
cool that you're spreading that around.
Yeah,
Power of creativity. It's what's keeping
yes,
us alive. Lego sure
yes,
isn't doing it. It's up to us.
yes. So, as I heard, you mentioned about the PC Power controversy. So, did you have a good relationship with BC Power nowadays?
Yes, it is much better. I think that, like Elder was alluding to, back when the issue, I mean, quite frankly, we were young and we were immature, and there was a lot of sentiment from people on BZP at the time who didn't really understand the staff's rules, felt they were too strict, didn't really like the attitude of some of the moderators. So it was common, especially in chat rooms talking about BZ Power, to kind of, gather around the campfire and kind of smack talk BZP and be like, yeah, the moderators suck. We're the ones, we could do things better. And now it's 2024 and we've had the TTV message boards for 10 years and we get it a lot more now. I think I speak for both myself and LJ, but I'm like, we sympathize a lot more with the struggle that it must have been to man and operate BZ Power during Bionicle's heyday and deal with all manner of people. Some people who were polite, some who were not, some who had attitudes, some who, did things to break rules and all sorts. And yeah, I have a lot more respect for what the staff went through back then, and we are on much, much, much better terms with them, especially at conventions and the like. We see them around, and they're all very cool, hardworking people. I know LJ's done a few events with them, right? Like at BZP, at Brick Fair, like with Andrew from BZP.
Yeah, no, I've done a couple of events and I'll chat with a bunch of the BZP staff, and they've always been extremely nice at Brick Fair, really pleasant to talk to and really helpful and collaborative. And uh, it is genuinely impressive what they were able to create with BZ Power. It is absolutely no exaggeration to say that BZ Power was the most important Bionicle fan website that has ever existed. And they have done a great job over the years. But it's, you know, back in the day, our grievances with BZP, a lot of it did stem from immaturity and ego and things along those lines. Not to say we did not have valid criticisms and we weren't, and some of our issues were unfounded. Like we had good reason in some situations to disagree with them, but yeah, our relationship with them is a whole lot better now, and I'm very happy for that.
Even a lot of the decisions that we did disagree with, and even if I still do, I can look back with the benefit of hindsight, and I kind of understand, especially with the canon contests and stuff, trying to please everybody, trying to come up with rules to account for every single instance of someone trying to break them. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
Oh yeah,
So
and
mistakes can happen.
by and
Yeah,
large, they were very lenient with us. They were very patient.
exactly. So,
I'll always be thankful to them because without BZP, I would not know any of these guys in TTV. So I owe a
yes,
lot to that
exactly.
website.
Yes, exactly. BC Power is one of the most important Bionicle website and forums because even in Latin America, most of the active members of the fan base, we discussed about BC Power news, the reviews, and all the stuff which was or nowadays is posted in BC Power. It's very important, and BC Power can gather people.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about the members of the crew, of the TTV crew. So nowadays, how is your relationship with the other members of the crew?
You want to take this one, Elch?
Sure. It's same as it's always been. We're probably in the best spot we've ever been. We're all still really good friends. We've added new members to our group that aren't really members of the channel, but more just members of our friends group. Like we we get along well. We talk at least in chat every single day. Um, yeah, no, everything's going well.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
I think that it should be stated that sometimes people do kind of drift off as life takes them in different directions. Like we used to talk every single day, all day when we weren't playing games, then we were doing channel videos, or we were making podcasts, or we were making machinimas. Nowadays, we have lives, we have families, we have significant others, we have careers. We're busy. We do not spend as much time with each other as we used to. And some of us that used to be in the group all the time have kind of faded away. But we still keep in touch every now and again. And we're in an era where I think we've lived so much with each other and we've lived through so much with each other that I think even when we disagree about things, we all just we get each other. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We get where each other's coming from. We've practically grown up alongside each other when you really think about it. We've known these guys for like 15 years this
Yeah.
year.
I mean,
So,
shoot, Mesa, like you met everyone at what, 11, 12?
yeah, it was 15 and
So
a half years ago.
that's over half of your life. That,
Yeah, I'm only 26 right now, so
yeah.
so yeah, I love the guys from TTV. They're all wonderful. They're great.
And so we speak about the good things about TTV channel and your experience with the other members. But did you have some bad experience or experience which can be considered as horrible during the lifetime of TTV channel?
Oh
Oh yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Tur-
yeah.
Turns out we should make this a formal rule, Mesa. We're not gonna have anyone whose name or username starts with a K and ends with an I.
It's
We've
just
had
bad
two.
luck.
It's just not good. We don't have a good track record.
It's only happened twice. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that it happened twice. There,
Okay.
I would say there were two notable instances of a really bad instance. Not to say we never had other bad instances, but typically, in the early formative years of the podcast, we were still ironing out kind of the core members. People would come and go. People would join, they'd be here for a few months. It wouldn't work out. Maybe there'd be a fight. Maybe they would leave. But that person wasn't exactly ingrained into the group's DNA. You know what I mean? We hadn't spent years with them, so it was easier to deal with that. And you'll notice if you listen back to a lot of our earlier podcasts, some people would just vanish abruptly. Some people were in 10 episodes, then they would leave. Some people were in 5, then they would leave. That just happened as we were figuring out our group. But if you're talking the core tightly knit friends group that developed, there were two big instances. LJ, you want to take one and I'll take the other?
You want original
I'll
or
I'll take original.
okay? All right, I'll take other then. So the first instance was a member of ours by the name of Kahi. His actual name is Jonathan Juan, but he goes by Kahi online. Nowadays, he goes by another name, J.J. And he had been a member of TTV for since at least 2011-ish, 2011,
Yeah,
2012-ish.
somewhere around then.
Yeah. And uh, he was very influential in a lot of the creative decisions that we made. Like kind of the identity of the channel, of different aspects of podcasts and stuff like that.
He was
And
specifically integral to our, I would say, corporatization, where we really stopped becoming like a group of friends making Bionicle content and more like we are the TTV channel, a YouTube network who, wants to be very corporate and run a company and do all this kind of stuff. That was very much his influence.
yeah, and eventually, see, we had him and I especially had a lot of interpersonal conflict. I didn't believe that he was a good person, and he saw me as a consistent thorn in his side. So eventually, he concocted a plan that essentially manipulated everyone else into having me removed. So I was kicked out, and he continued to act as not a good person after I was removed. And eventually, that came to light and he was removed, and I, after 7 months, returned, and things have been pretty good since then. But
Yeah.
that was a pretty difficult time for the group. I don't know if we've necessarily healed fully from that, but
No.
we've made great strides.
We never, as friends, we have healed. As the TTV channel, we have not and will never heal. At least not under the TTV channel branding, because that it was the moment where things ground to a halt. You know what I mean? There was an interpersonal turmoil. it got resolved and we healed as friends, but the YouTube channel was definitely a casualty of that. Anybody who looks at our uploads will notice around 2018, that was when things started to peter off. And that's a direct and analog as to why was that instance.
Yeah.
But it's for the
Okay.
best, because so long as we're solid as friends, that's what matters.
we we discussed the history of Kahi, one of the most maybe disturbing moments in the Bionicle fan base.
It was
Yes,
pretty bad.
yes, the accusations against Predak don't count. That not is not really disturbing. Yeah,
Yeah.
fun fact. If you remember, if you are Bionicle fans, maybe you remember some parents said Predak has blood in his body.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
True.
Lego
I
said
feel
no, they are natural spots because it's a wild animal in some way.
feels like a lifetime ago that was the biggest controversy going on.
Yeah.
So
Well, there
so
was one other story,
yeah,
and I would say
please, Mesotaldos.
it's much smaller, and a lot of people probably don't know it, but it's more recent and it's also more infuriating. And it is one of our earliest members, one of the two people that I met in that Vaki group that I was talking about back from the days of BZ Power. And his name was Keeney. Keeney, a lot of people who know us might not have ever even heard his name because he was never really a part of the TTV channel. I think in our entire history, I don't know how. I imagine you've probably have a better idea than I do, LJ, because you crunch the numbers on things. But I would be willing to bet that Keeney was never in more than maybe 10 videos on our channel.
Well,
Um,
he was a part, well, unless you count the TTV podcast, because he was a part of 26 podcast episodes.
well, there you go. I'm wrong. So that's more than I would have ever expected for Keeney. But see, that's why I go to you for the statistics and the facts.
No problem.
Yeah, so he was in some stuff, but he kept a very low profile presence. He would tend to get really busy in his life or get disinterested with the Bionicle community or our channel. He would just vanish for like 7 months or so and then randomly come back one day when he was bored or had more free time, and we would fill him in on everything that he'd missed. We played a lot of Halo with him, a lot of Mass Effect, a lot of Destiny. He was a good friend of ours. Played a lot of video games with him. Good trusted friend.
Until.
When we did the canon contests, which was an initiative we started in 2020, I believe, Elja,
Yep, that's correct.
to work with Greg Farshty and to bring canon contests back to give official appearances to characters from the Bionicle story who never received appearances, such as Helrix, Artaka, the Toahaga, etc. When we did that initiative, Keeney was basically the third person who really helped us a lot. He helped us behind the scenes. He would post on the TTV message boards in like a moderator capacity. He would help hash out rules, etc., etc., etc. Our falling out with him was not near as exciting as the one with Kahi. It can be summarized quite simply as Keeney would join other Bionicle community Discord servers and paint himself as a relatable person by smack talking us, basically. Like he's the cool TTV member who will say it how it is and who will criticize LJ and Meso, who will spill secrets from behind the scenes about how TTV actually works, how they are with each other, etc. Leak DM conversations between me and him, and generally ingrain himself in those communities by disparaging his friends. I would love to tell a reason why he did this. I still don't fully understand to this day, other than a very profound dislike of LJ because of things that happened when they were like 11 years old. You fired him at one point back
which
when
is hilarious.
the group started, and I don't
See,
think he ever fully forgave you for that.
which is crazy because that was like when we had been doing the podcast for like, I don't know, a few months, and
Yeah,
B, I was the messenger. It's not like I could do that unilaterally.
yeah. It all came to a head when Keeney he said some things out of context conversations, posting out of context screenshots to try to paint a very negative view of LJ in the public eye, to try to paint him as someone who was like kind of an egomaniac who thought of himself as greater than everybody else. Was a very targeted smear campaign against LJ. And I think he genuinely felt that way. I don't think he was lying or whatever. I think he genuinely felt that LJ was just a bad person, or at the very least, had done bad things. And it got so bad, he cut ties with everyone in TTV, including the rest of the group who had nothing to do with the canon contests at all, who also were his friends, who he basically just threw away because I really couldn't tell you. Um, it's not nearly as exciting, but it cuts a little deeper for me, maybe because of recency bias. But people talk about the canon contests a lot and how certain sections of the Bionicle community do not like us anymore as a result of them. And quite frankly, that doesn't really bother me because I value my friends and those close to me and what they think of me. But it does very much bother me that Keeney somehow turned against us to the point where he outright refused to talk about his personal grievances with us and would instead air them out on Discord servers.
Okay.
Sorry to dump all that on you, but those are the two biggest negative spots, I would say, in our history.
Yeah, Kenny. Yeah. Yeah, Kenny. Oh man.
That's my
Kenny.
side of the story, anyway. That's how
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, Kenny sounds like a very disturbed person or confused.
Per his own words, an exact quote, he said, I think being in the Bionicle community has made me a worse person. That's how he felt. I don't
Yeah,
agree, though. I think that the Bionicle community can be a wonderful thing if you choose to let it be.
yeah. I know a lot of some weird and disturbing histories about the Latino fan base, and
Really?
some people are make the same than Kenny. I remember a case of a person, a Chilean fan, who was the owner of one of the biggest forums in the Latino fan base. So he hacking other forums.
Oh,
Jeez.
Also, during the Bionicle revival, he started to pose as other persons and send malware to doxing the person and post the DMs, messages, and try to destroy the fan base.
oh,
Jeez.
oh! So you've definitely had your own terrible situations then.
Yes. Did you know
Wow.
the term lolco?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy was a lolco because he make a lot of weird things. He took the groups, the fan pages, and post really, really disturbing stuff in the. Maybe he tried to shut down the fan pages and all the spaces created by other fans, which cannot be joined to him or them, because until now we believe, some people which are my friends, we believe that guy have more people help him.
Hmm.
Did he
See,
just do it for clout or?
yeah, why
Yeah,
did he do it? Did he ever say a motive?
yeah, we don't know because that person, it was too random.
Wow. See,
Dang.
LJ, at least our biggest problems were mostly private. Mostly. I guess not really in some cases, but at least they didn't try to take down the entire fandom.
Yeah, no, that is true.
Yeah, I can say until now that guy start a kind of paranoia Cold War state during even in some Bionicle Mexican fans and in the group which I was a member in our private our private club to speak about Bionicle.
Wow.
Goodness.
There are some people discuss who was that guy. Even some people say, yeah, maybe he used a surname called Amigo Pescadito or my tiny little the tiny fish friends. It's too random.
That sounds bizarre,
Yeah,
genuinely.
also use the rookie fish image as his avatar.
Well, hopefully he stays gone.
Yes, I hope he is gone because it was so disturbing what he does. He did in the fan base.
Sounds like it. Wow.
So this our Latino Bionicle horror story.
That's awful. Well, I'm glad that it's at least over now. Like, that is a relief.
Yeah. So this is like a roller coaster. We're gonna discuss something happier. So
All right.
I check in your videos and you have the chance to visit different Lego and Bionicle events or conventions. Can you tell us how did you feel travel around United States and seeing or take part in those events?
Yeah, I mean, LJ, you're the best one to speak here because you've been to the convention in particular the most.
No, no, see, I don't think this is specifically for Brick Fair because quite honestly, I mean, he is right. We've gotten a chance to do a lot of different events and things as a group. Meso,
That's fair.
you and Var went to the reveal at New York Comic Con when Bionicle came back.
That is true. That is true. I
Um,
didn't immediately equate those things, but that does
uh,
count.
yeah. Additionally, what was it? Lego Live? Was that what it was
Yeah, a
called?
very short-lived, up-and-coming Lego convention, like managed by Lego themselves, by which we went out to New York City to promote a line called Lego Boost, which was an offshoot kind of companion service to Lego Mindstorms, dealing with app-controlled, remote-controlled like set designs. And we promoted the theme there and had a booth and a panel, and that was fun.
Okay, so as every good convention, there are celebrities. What how incredible is meet the Bionicle or Lego celebrities such as Greg Farstey, the Bionicle DC comic illustrators, maybe the Nick Lotud actor, or another relevant people from to the Lego world.
Um,
Well,
as far as actual like celebrities like Matthew Awald, such a nice guy. I don't have enough nice things to say about him. He is so friendly and positive. It was a joy to get to like direct him. Like you can't see, but I have air quotes, like direct him for a skit for a review that I did. He was just such a blast to interact with, and he always is. He's great. As far as everyone else that we've interacted with, the other professionals like Greg Farshti, Carlos de Anda, um, uh, Christian Faber, everyone has been so swell. All the professional artists and creatives behind Bionicle, they have been simply wonderful. It was a great joy of mine to get to be a part of the creators panel to mainly host it. Um, it was it was fantastic. Everyone there was awesome. It was truly an honor to be a part of that.
I agree with everything you just said. I think an important distinction is that unfortunately, at least so far, typically at the in-person Lego events, conventions throughout the country. We've not gotten to meet too many people from, the Bionicle world itself. A lot of our chances to interact with those individuals, such as Christian Faber, Greg Farshdi, Carlos D'Anda, Randy Elliott, all of them, it has been through online conventions, interviews, stuff of that nature. There haven't been a lot of people actually showing up to Brick Fair, for instance. Not yet, anyway. Could always change. That would be cool.
Yes.
But so far, they've all been wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. About that point, I have a curious history about Carlos D'Anda. He's he born and raised and was raised in a Mexico state, which is more near to Mexico City, my province. So when he returned to Mexico to sing to give sing or make illustrations in a comic book con called La Mole Comic Con, or the thing as Ben Grimm,
Oh, that's
he
cool.
he had a huge crowd of people wait for his job. And I was the only one person who want to say thank you. I really love your job, your work in Bionicle comic book series. The other guys want his signature for Batman comic books. Yes, the first Batman
Really?
Arkham Asylum series.
Oh, wow.
That's actually extremely surprising. I forgot that he did other like comic books for like DC, like Batman, but
It makes
huh.
sense.
Yeah, but still, I know him so much as like a Bionicle guy, and he was also part of that founders interview. Such a nice guy, so nice, extremely charismatic. He was great.
I remember some people have some a canister with his signature.
That is awesome.
But I bet it
I
made him
don't
very happy to see someone recognize him for non-mainstream, quote unquote, work. Even though the Bionicle comics did get massive circulation.
yes. Uh, Give me. I try to find something very important to that point, because if we're
Okay.
gonna speak about the Lego conventions, usually, for example, in Mexico, we this year we have maybe one of the first with important guests as the voice national voice actors from Ninjago's Lego Ninjago's Jay and Zane.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
cool.
So that was too important because in the past, usually the people want those kinds of people, not YouTubers. So uh, I have the signature of those guys, but a bit more. I only have one of the articles which with the Ninjago signatures. This is maybe one of the Lego t-shirts.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
Jay
awesome.
and Zane.
That is fantastic.
Yes, my some friends say, "Hey, I want to see that knockoff Lego car," but say, "Okay, I give it to me in the event." But I only have a same minifigure, a Ninjago movie same minifigure with the white uniform, and I don't have nothing more than this car. And yes, nowadays this is a Lego, one of the Lego T-shirts of my personal collection.
I mean,
That
hey,
is super cool.
that is very fantastic and definitely something to treasure.
I hope one day I have a chance to interview Greg Farshti and try to me more know about the creative process of Bionicle and his personal life, because I think he can tell us more and more something interesting. But yes,
Oh yeah. No, Greg
He is
is
about
a
wonderful to talk with.
genuinely fantastic person.
we come back to the fan base. So one of the biggest events of the recent Lego history was the Lego movie, and later Lego Ninjago movie, Lego Movie 2, or the sequel. How was the reaction of maybe the interaction with the Lego community about the movies.
Well, most people who watched them loved them, and most Bionicle fans who watched them were bitter that Bionicle wasn't more in them. That's really, I mean, that's my primary lens, was observing them from the context of the Bionicle community. A lot of people were angry that it wasn't a big part. A lot of people were angry at its small reference in the first movie, and even more so that Takanuva was going to be in the second movie and then got scrapped. But the movies in general, universally acclaimed, and they
Yeah,
are all fantastic. And most people tended to agree. Ninjago movie a bit more divisive, but you know, I still liked some things about it. What about you,
yeah.
LJ?
Oh, I thought the Lego movies were outstanding. Most of them were outstanding. And I didn't mind that Bionicle wasn't a bigger part. I thought the fact that they even thought about it and included references in half of them, I thought was really cool. Uh, so yeah, no, I think they're great, and I think a lot of people kind of blew out of proportion the fact that there wasn't more Bionicle in them.
I agree.
Uh,
They're very good.
um, yes. Okay. In TTV, there was something which someone or a group which say, "Wow, maybe a Bionicle movie will be great." Did you have that kind of discussions between your friend, the TTV circle, or with the fan base?
We've definitely had the conversation, and I think seeing a big budget Bionicle theatrical movie would be incredibly cool, but we're all pretty much at the same page. I mean, you couldn't do it in the Lego movie style. Not
Yeah,
Okay.
visual
no.
style, but necessarily, but in, the presentation, because the Lego movies, they present a very meta view of Lego. They have real life segments that present Lego's role as a creative building toy and have analogies to different relationships between parents and children, between siblings, etc., etc. I think Bionicle couldn't really do that. Bionicle would need to very much be all about its own story, and I don't think it would quite translate to that format.
Okay. I discovered something. No, when you told about that, it was quite funny because I consider make a college project with Bionicle and try to maybe make something more savage than the typical Bionicle YouTube stop motion series and try to try to explore the idea of Bionicles that Bionicles discover they are toys
Oh boy.
and they discover they are only alive because the guy is moving their parts and they are part of the movie and a movie which can be projected in a college in Mexican college
Okay,
class.
but that
Yeah,
that sounds fun and creative. You know, the
Yeah.
idea can work, and exploring it in the way that you did sounds like it worked fine. I mean, even reviving Bionicle by Suddenly Oranges kind of deals with those themes of
yeah,
Bionicle characters as toys dealing with the franchise and its current state. It's just that kind of a project. You need to already be a fan to understand it. And if they tried to do a theatrical movie, it would need to be marketable to people that,
yes. Maybe
haven't already known it.
it will become as the Truman Show Bionicle movie.
There you go.
And it will be the bizarrest Bionicle movie made by a fan trying to revival his his loved
So true.
franchise. All right, about the Bionicle fan base and relationship with TTB during the pre-revival of Bionicle. One of the most prized websites and YouTube channels was TTB for the information and how quickly the people can get the access. So, what happened during the ending of the Generation 2? The people start to leave the podcast, start to leave the website, or try to find a way to express with you or all the members of the crew about why they feel about G2?
Well, I'll tell a little bit and then I'm going to hand it over to LJ, but my about how we feel about G2, that was an emotional period almost of grieving, I would say, that we all kind of went through. I was very much the guy standing on the roof saying that the sky was falling throughout most of 2015 and 2016, kind of like the first time, LJ.
Yeah, you were very negative, yes.
But, I felt that the writing was on the wall and I was sad about how things were going. And, I think I fought with a lot of people because they didn't see it quite yet or they believed things could get better. And I very much felt like they weren't going to get better. But when it ended, we all kind of went through that grieving process. And then, I mean, the year of mid 2016 to mid 2018 was a very interesting time, LJ. What happened in the wake of G2's cancellation?
Oh, well, the Ninjago movie came out.
I mean, that was
Oh,
one thing that happened.
wait, no, you're right. And I finished the recent reviews.
That did happen too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and I got fired, Messa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was during that whole period. It was a very inflammatory period, and we had put a lot on Bionicle G2. I'll put it that way. We had bet a lot on it, and we were enjoying doing YouTube, and we liked having a community of people that watched our stuff, and we liked being a source of news. And when that went away, we didn't really know what to do. And we were processing G2's ending, and we got that art book, the Bionicle art book, and we were inspired by one of the drawings in the art book to create a project called Brickonicle. LJ, what was that about?
So Brickonicle was kind of a homegrown pitch to suggest that Bionicle could be done in a Lego system format, so with bricks and minifigures. And it was kind of a fun, creative project to kind of come up with the concept and make it a fully fledged idea and pitch.
It basically took over the podcast for about a year before spinning off into its own separate podcast called Brainstorm.
Yeah.
All right. I still remember that. Also, I remember the Bionicle Generation 2 pitch, which is the Matoran Civil War.
No,
Yeah,
yep, I
it
remember
was.
that.
And
What
I mean,
happened with that project?
well, it was a bit divisive for a few reasons, Elge. I know you weren't the biggest fan of it always.
Yeah, I had some issues with it, but they were personal problems with the direction it was headed and how it was being handled. Because I thought I had an understanding about how it was going to go, and I thought we had agreed on that, and that ended up not being the case, which I thought was a bit of a personal slight, considering Kahi was heavily involved in it.
Yeah. The issue from a presentation point was it was a long show. The episodes were 1 hour, 2 hours long. And for someone to be up to date with the project, they would have to watch every episode. Because if you missed one episode, I mean, we were brainstorming things on the fly. So you could come back and just be completely lost as to what we had planned in the last week's episode. And it was a lot. It was very dense. It wasn't really a good format in terms to present those ideas because eventually it just got very bloated and very confusing. And I think some people in the community didn't like a lot of our ideas. Some people didn't like the specifics. Some people were resistant to the idea of the Toa as minifigures. Some people just didn't like how we were handling it. But either way, eventually people in TTV stopped contributing to it it became only like 3 to 4 people. And then we fired Kahi, and then it became, basically 2 people. And then we just kind of stopped because
Oh,
it just kind of burned out. But I do
okay.
think it achieved its intended purpose because you can look back on those podcasts and you can look back at the artwork that was in those podcasts done by very talented community artists and people from within TTV. And those videos stand on our YouTube channel as proof that Bionicle can work as a system theme. Whether it's your preference or not, that's another matter. I will always prefer Construction. But all we were setting out to do was show that it could be done. You could keep the Bionicle spirit with minifigures. And even though the project wasn't a success, that part of it, I think, was.
About that point which you mentioned about the Bionicle minifigures, I think a little bit contradictory because we have Bionicle minifigures in the past, since the 2 Hour Decast saga.
Yes.
Also, yes, I remember the minifigures. It was a very controversial topic because most of the people loves Bionicle as a action figure, not as a minifigure.
The construction figures, the buildable action figures that Bionicle has been known for are definitely the most popular form of Bionicle. And officially, Lego has, as you mentioned, they've tried minifigures in the past, but they haven't been the traditional minifigure. They've been often statue-esque. They've been either no articulation or far less articulation. And it was a genuine attempt by Lego to make minifigures for Bionicle characters that look like Bionicle characters, which is, that's it's a good effort. But they just didn't hit the exact same way as the traditional iconic Lego minifigure, which was something Brickonicle was attempting to address.
And the main reason it isn't necessarily because anyone from TTV would prefer Bionicle as minifigures. I think I can pretty much speak for everybody and say one of the reasons why we gravitated to it was because of its unique building style, because of its characters. Our logic was very much that if Bionicle G3 were to ever happen, one of the things it would need to be successful would be a TV show.
Yes.
And one of the only ways Lego would give it a TV show is if they could dedicate a large enough amount of their marketing budget to it. And realistically, we were very skeptical that Lego would see constructible action figures as being deserving of an Ninjago level budget. But maybe they would see a homegrown minifigure theme as being so. But that was just the thinking. It was more of I would say, a necessary evil per se, but I don't think it's evil. It's just, a
All right.
trade-off.
We have only 2 questions to finish the second part of the 3 parts interview special. Yes, the last one will be amazing. Believe me, will be amazing.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
So, we're gonna speak about sad things again. Did you remember the COVID-19 lockdown?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Everyone was in his home, or despite you were a doctor, you were a nurse, you were a medical researcher. So, how was the activity of TTV forum during the lockdown, and also did you reach more people than other occasions?
Eldra.
So board activity, I think was pretty average during lockdown, possibly higher because around the time lockdown began is when the cannon contest started. So a lot of the work that went into the cannon contests happened on the TTV message boards, including the hosting. So there was a lot of activity when it came to that. But I wouldn't call it like a significant uptick. I definitely wouldn't say, and I haven't seen any of the stats or anything. We really like
We don't really look at that
haven't
kind of stuff.
we really haven't concerned ourselves with the stats of the boards, historically speaking. But I would not say that the boards were more active during the canon contests than they were during like 2016, 2017, even when there was a lot more homegrown content and activity.
Yeah.
That
It's
we were
definitely a
instigating.
steady decline over time, which is to be expected, especially during an era where social media is more prevalent and Bionicle is long gone. If anything, I would say one of the things that kind of contributed to that is because the TTV channel in general was on a decline around that time for reasons we've prior mentioned. Um, so it was bound to happen, but it was definitely a more of a slower to average time.
Mhm.
Okay. I thinking one of the most interesting questions about the Bionicle fan base during those years of the lockdown. Did you reach people which aren't Bionicle fans during the G2 or G1?
Did we reach people who weren't fans?
Yes.
I would
Um,
I would say we've like over time, I would say that we have definitely reached a lot of people who either were not active fans or were unfamiliar with Bionicle, because we've cultivated a pretty sizable Ninjago following as well, and there are a lot of people that are fans of Ninjago that learned about Bionicle through us, or they found videos of ours and they got interested into it. I would say more commonly, we would have people that used to be Bionicle fans find our videos and then become Bionicle fans. Like they get back into it because they'd see like a recap review or a Bionicle autopsy, and that would get them back into it and they'd be really excited. But as far as like, I wouldn't say we have sizably brought in new Bionicle fans in comparison to the earlier years of the theme.
Okay. And the final one. This is one of the maybe a little controversy. Is
oh, we
surrounded
love
the
controversy.
okay, and we're gonna finish this with a controversy. Okay, the situation is simple. Did you remember the controversial project of Faber, the Bio Bible? What happened in TTV during those days of the Bio Bible?
Messa, I think you should take this one.
What happened with Biovival, huh?
Yep,
Well,
Biovival and Christian Faber.
that definitely I would say was very my wheelhouse. I made a series of videos about it, solo videos, and then we did several Mac and J dual podcasts about it as well. Um, I'll just say this, and we'll put a calf in it. I do not believe that Christian Faber has any ill intent in his heart. He is a nice man. He is an incredibly creative man. He's very talented. Speaking with him during our interview, which he graciously joined us for, was a very eye-opening experience because it showed that his intentions are very pure. He wants to inspire, he wants to promote creativity among the Bionicle fandom. He wants to show people that anything is possible if you believe in it. And he wants to secure the future of, if not the Bionicle name, the Bionicle spirit. However, I do not believe the way he went about it was good. To this day, I think it was a bit mishandled. I think that there was another way he could have gone about it that was much more clear. And I think that, I mean, it shows very much Christian Faber is a part of the creative team. he has not really ever been a member of the Bionicle community. He doesn't really understand, I don't think, quite how the community operates. He doesn't understand its various subcultures, how cynical people can be, how cold people can be, or how impressionable people can be. And I think that people very much saw Bionicle's creator posting stuff on social media in a cryptic way as evidence that Bionicle was coming back, and they got their expectations way too high. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of that, the fault is with the people, but back then, very much, I said, some of the fault I felt was also with the handling of BioVival, especially now that we know now what it was about. It was unused Bionicle G2 concept art, and that's a cool thing. I'm glad we got to see that concept art, but that's all it was. It was concept art.
Yes. I think it's cool. Final, yes, make a clear state about what really was, because there are many people, even nowadays, they are believing Christian Faber came back Bionicle, come back Bionicle, or by Bible, it was the project which can be returned Bionicle, and by the 2020s crisis, it was a whole conspiracy to stop Bionicle. Yes, it's a lot of
Yeah.
bizarre theories which are posted in the internet about Bible.
It was a complex and crazy time.
Okay,
That's for
yes,
sure.
That
Uh,
said, like out, out of it, what did come out of it was like unshakable knowledge that Christian Faber is genuinely just such he is so
yep.
kind and patient and 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 graceful whenever he talks to fans directly. And it
Yep.
was genuinely it was wonderful getting the chance to actually talk to him on that interview,
Agreed.
which he was kind enough. We got to have the first like community podcast interview with him, as far as I know. Um, Before he was on like the founders panel and stuff.
Yeah,
And
it was great.
yeah, so he's just I don't have enough kind words for Christian Faber as a person. He's really really nice.
yes. So we debunk one of the greatest myths in the Bionicle fan base. What really, what really was, what really was about your Bible, or what really is? So now we are the Bionicle Might Busters, and this is the conclusion of the second part of our three-part interview. So, how do you feel about we are reached to the end and the conclusion of this experience?
This is very fun. We're
This
having a
is a
great
blast.
time. Thank you for having
Yes.
us on and talking to us.
All right. So next time, prepare yourself, because we gonna discuss the conclusion of TTV, but we will have a freestyle occasion. Thanks for everyone to assist to the. Thanks for everyone. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm nervous. I need to confess, I'm really nervous, because we're gonna discuss the ending of one of the most important Bionicle fans hub in the internet. So prepare yourself. It will be amazing, the last episode of the series. If you like Bionicle and if you want to support TTV channel, please watch all the videos of the series of the TTV channel. Also visit the forum, and if you like this channel, please subscribe, comment, and give us a very kind and warm heart like. Thanks a lot for this occasion. And most important, thanks to Meso, and thanks to LJ for this special occasion.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for hosting us.